Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media for AJR. Before we begin today's program, I'd like to announce that this week's Member Focus Monday and AJR On the Move podcast sponsor is Reliant Energy. Realtors partner with Reliant to earn exclusive rewards and work alongside dedicated Reliant Mover concierge that can help make your clients move easy. You can visit their website for more information. And with that, we'll begin today's program. September, as we know, is Realtor Safety Month, and who better to discuss realtor safety with than Tracey, the safety lady Hawkins. Welcome back to the program, Tracey.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
Thank you so much for being here. I know this is not your first appearance on our program, but for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure of hearing from you before, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a former real estate agent. I got my license, I want to say about 5 years ago with my twin sister, and she's still an agent, but I decided to go a different direction, so I got into the safety business. I started speaking at real estate offices around Kansas City here, and then next thing I knew, I was doing it on a national level, and here I am.
And thank you so much for this. We actually have more that you're going to be doing for HAR later this month, so we'll talk about that later in the program. But for now, let's just get into today's topic. Of course, realtor safety is always heavy on our mind. It seems like we're always seeing things happening with realtors. Why do you find that realtors are targeted so often?
I hate to say it, but let's just be realistic here. When the U.S. Department of Labor considers real estate sales and leasing a high-risk hazardous occupation, and it's based on our job description, the job description reads that real estate agents make a living meeting complete strangers in empty houses. Real estate agents sit in empty houses and they wait for strangers to walk in. So it's no wonder. My goal is not to scare agents, but to give them the tools to do their jobs in a safe manner. And I get to travel the country and do this. And as you can imagine, September is my busy month. And I've been everywhere from Virginia. I got back from DC and where else? 3 cities in Iowa and more to come. So I am talking to agents front and center, and they're saying, we had no idea. We thought it was just common sense. So it's a specialized training, and it's something that I decided to make myself an expert in. And it's not just tips here or there, but this is my sole focus, is to keep agents safe. So when they realize it's not just common sense, there are some specific training practices that they need to know about, that's when we're going to make a difference.
Great, thank you. So what do you believe is some of the biggest threats to realtor safety right now?
Not being aware that it can happen. It's happening everywhere, Christina. I'm looking at crimes against agents, and I am looking at them in big cities, small towns, and it's happening in broad daylight. And typically when I hear people talk about safety, they're saying, I don't go out at night, so I'm okay, or I only go to the good part of town. And I want to scream, as long as criminals have cars, there's no such thing as a safe part of town or a good part of town. They're everywhere. And the fact is, sometimes the higher income neighborhoods, that's where they think the good stuff is. So I just want to wake agents up and let agents know that it is happening everywhere. So you need to be on alert. And it's not just a bad guy, it's people who are bad. It could be a bad couple, it could be a bad lady. I just want agents to just kind of wake up and realize that people aren't good out there. Some of them aren't, but you need to be alert and aware to protect yourself.
Okay, and from what you're saying, it sounds like really we should never be letting our guard down when we're out in the field, no matter what neighborhood you might be in.
And no matter who you're working with. And I'm not saying live in fear and be afraid of everyone and be paranoid. I am saying be aware. And with great training, with expert-led training, you are going to be aware. You know what to look for. You know how to build safe practices into your business so you don't have to live in a certain kind of way and living in fear. And I say no to fear. But if you know what you're up against and you know what you're dealing with, that empowers you. So that's what I teach agents, to work with knowledge and to be empowered to do the job, be more productive, and even heck, serve the consumer while you're at it.
Okay, and we're going to get into some of those recommendations now. What would you recommend to realtors when they are out in the field, when they're hosting those open houses, when they're showing homes? What are your recommendations?
First and foremost is to know who you're dealing with, and we'll talk about it later. We can talk about it now, that you all, the Houston Association of Realtors has actually created a tool to help do that. So I say to take every step you can, utilize every safe practice that you can. Again, we'll talk about the technology that you all have provided, but before then, just layers of safety. That means safety training. That means best practices, knowing what you're going to do. That means if you decide to take a self-defense class, one class is not enough. You need to take more than one class and practice, know what you're going to do in a dangerous situation. And one of the things I do, Christina, in my safety training is we do discussions and we talk about role play, because there's nothing more realistic than imagining yourself in a specific situation. And we talk about how to de-escalate. So I will give an example of what can and what has happened to other agents, what's realistic, and then we talk about how to de-escalate that, get out of that situation. If you decide to carry a weapon, no matter what the weapon is, you need to know how to use it. Mm-hmm. It needs to be accessible. You need to be comfortable using it, and you need to practice. And when the National Association of Realtors surveyed real estate agents about which weapons they use, number one was pepper spray. And I always educate and know what you're carrying. Know the difference between mace, pepper spray, and tear gas. Know which one you actually should be carrying, and that's pepper spray, that's OC, and have it handy. It needs to be accessible in the bottom of your purse, in a glove pocket of your car. Not helpful. It needs to be accessible. And finally, you need to know how to use it. Mm-hmm. And another thing I do is I talk about lessons learned. And that's what I got an opportunity to talk about at the NAR conference last year. And that resonated so much with agents that I started incorporating it into every single program. We talk about real life crimes against agents, so that agents know that this is something that is happening and here's how it happened. And the major goal is let's keep it from happening again by not blaming the victim, but let's learn from what happened so that it's not repeated.
Okay. One thing that you said in there that I think is key is practice. How would you practice this? Would you recommend this as something that maybe is done in brokerage offices? We do kind of a role playing back and forth similar to what you do in your classes. Probably they should take that class before they try and do it on their own. But how would you recommend that realtors actually practice being safe in the field?
Excellent question. What I do in one of my classes is I talk to brokers, managers, and owners about setting up a safe office culture, safety culture in the office. And that's become my keynote, as they say. Because safety culture has to be ingrained in a business culture, and we're getting there in the real estate industry. So what I tell brokerages is to have a safety committee in your office. That has to be at least one member of management, agent, a staff member, minimum. And every quarter or so, they need to meet and sketch out a plan, talk about a plan. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be bringing in someone who is going to do self-defense training, one and done is not enough. So make it a regular part. And the way you practice is you go to more than one class and then you actually practice it. Having that safety committee means that you're talking about safety every single sales meeting. Mm-hmm. Devote maybe 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe talk about a safety tip and go through it with your people. Post a little reminder on the wall in the break room. Every email, every communication with your agents, talk about that safety tip, because this is September, Real Estate Safety Month, as you mentioned, and I am busy this month, but I need to be busy year round. So I'm saying training, expert-led training year round, so it's not one and done. So brokerages can help make it a regular part of your business practices. Real estate agents, you need to make it a regular part of your business practice. If it's something you do consistently, plus if you're consistent with your safety practices, that keeps you out of trouble. So that means what you do for one, you do for them all. That means if you verify the identity of one, you do it for all. If you require ID for one, you do it for all. If you require a first meeting for one, you do it for all. So that's what I talk about, and that's what needs to be ingrained. And after a while, we'll have this culture of safety in the industry where we don't just have this one agent who's always safe and the other agent who's whatever. Mm-hmm. So I say safety culture is so important, and that's my new passion, is making sure we instill that in this industry.
Okay. Tracey, we've had many of our members get threatening phone calls or FaceTimes or maybe lewd pictures or messages sent to them. What do you recommend that realtors do in those situations when they receive messages or phone calls like that?
Right. And I'm glad you asked, because there is a process. It's not just block it and move on. You don't just block the number, you're done with it, and you move on. It needs to be addressed. And I know, I remember the news story a few years ago in Houston where an agent was getting these phone calls. It started out, and this happens, it's repeated across the country. On a regular basis, you'd be amazed. A real estate agent will get a phone call, and it starts out as a legitimate call, and then the conversation starts getting inappropriate. And so, in the case of the agent there, she's like, "No, I'm not comfortable with this," and then it escalates. And then I know the guy threatened to rape her. And when she got her husband involved, he threatened to kill them. So what I like that she did is she reported it to the authorities. And that's number one. First of all, of course, you block the number, but don't just let it go. We need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to warn other agents. You need to report it to your real estate company, and then they in turn will report it to the association there at safety at har.com org. So they need to know the proper way to report it. I saw on social media an agent say, "I got these calls. I'm going to take this guy's picture. I'm going to blast it all over and warn everybody." Stop. You can't do that for libel reasons, and you just can't do it. The National Association of Realtors is saying, go to your association, and HAR, you all are trained. You have a specific department that handles this. So the number one thing is to report it to the authorities. And so often agents say it's not a big deal. I don't want to bother them. That's their job. Report it to authorities and let them do their job. They will determine whether or not it's a crime, whether or not a report needs to be taken, and if an investigation needs to be done. So report it to your leadership in your company, at your association, and a police report. Now, once you get a police report, then that information contained in the police report is public information. So it can be disseminated along with a report number, but let's leave that up to leadership at your association to do that. But definitely don't just block and stop it. Let's show if there's a trend or a pattern so that other agents can be warned as well.
Absolutely. Take a bigger step than that. I love that. And we did share that email address in the comments as well. It's safety@har.com. But as Tracey said, always alert the authorities first. So Lydia asked a question which is right in line with what I was about to ask you. Lydia is saying, what is your recommendation when a prospect calls to see the property same day? So how do you best vet those leads to ensure legitimacy?
You first and foremost have to have safety processes in place. So that's where you get to say, and I teach agents to lead with safety. I want every conversation to have a safety focus, whether it's protecting the consumer or yourself. So you'll say, "Hey, great, I'd love to show you that property. Our safety practices require that we have an initial first meeting. We can do a real quick FaceTime or a real quick Zoom, and that way I can get to know you and you can get to know me. I can see what your needs are, and then we can go from there." It used to be that people would say, "What are you talking about, virtual? I don't know how to do it." Think back to the pandemic. In order to stay sane, social, and connected, everybody had to learn how to be virtual. My mom learned to be virtual, so no excuses. So when you say, "Let's jump on a quick virtual meeting," I promise you less than 5 minutes, and let me just find out a little bit about you, and that way you can be comfortable with me. So you turn it around and you let them know that this is helpful to you and to me. And let's say that's still not going to work. I hear people saying, "Meet at a coffee shop," and I have to say, time out. Not just any coffee shop. Think about a busy coffee shop. If you go in there, it's defeating the whole purpose. The purpose of a first meeting is witness potential. You need the maybe will be perpetrator, maybe client to know that there are people who have seen you with me. And if something is wrong, they can identify you. That's the point. And then I say add a level of production in there. Show them some listings before you get in the car and pay $30 a gallon for gas. Share your screen, show them some of the listings or show them the inside of the house to determine if they want to really do that. So you're showing that you're a smart agent. But again, back to the coffee shop, not any coffee shop. If you must, it could be a coffee shop where you are known, where they know you by name. So that way the maybe would-be perpetrator knows, oh, okay, so they pay attention. They can identify me, less likely to do something. Or your office. But if you have a virtual company or no office, I guarantee you one of your industry partners, whether it's a lender or title company, will let you use their conference room if it's more convenient and closer. But the most important thing is to show your professionalism and not just pop up and show a stranger. And I guarantee you, if they're legitimate clients, they're going to understand if you're doing it for your safety.
Okay. So you mentioned something earlier that I think bears repeating, and that is that this should be the practice with every client. The last thing we want is is for somebody to be accused of maybe some discrimination or not violating fair housing. So this is what you would recommend that realtors do with every single client every single time?
Every single time. Make it a part of your business practice. And that way you don't have to think twice about it. And then for some reason now agents kind of roll their eyes. I don't want to do that. But then one of the things I do is I share stories of crimes against real estate agents and I break it down. We look at the anatomy of a crime and we look at what the agent did right. We look at what went wrong. And I'm not saying what the agent did wrong because they're victims. We don't blame victims,
Sure.
but we look at what went wrong in the situation. And that makes it more likely for agents to relate to it because I guarantee you, every single one of those crimes that I talk about, an agent can say, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that because I have. When I was an agent, I've done it. So making it realistic lets agents know that this is something that's happening out there. And again, if you make it a part of your everyday practice, and the key is instead of it's like, oh God, that's one more thing I have to do, I say build it in and then use it to build business. So that's how I differentiate my training. I am saying you not only are screening the client to make sure that they're okay, and that's not just the buyer, Christina. We have to screen whoever's living in that house before we walk into a house with a stranger. So it works both ways, and most agents don't think of that. So let's use the tools that we're going to talk about, technology tools. Let's use these practices on a regular basis. We screen everyone, and it's just a part of telling the consumer, not only am I working safely, but I'm looking out for you too. I want to make sure when you put your house on the market that your family and your possessions are safe. And, here's how I do it. Here's the little checklist, a security checklist. I'm telling you to do that with FISBOs. Here's the safety tip sheet. Hey, FISBO, I'm looking out for you. You don't know what you don't know. Staple your business card to that sheet, and you'll have the link to share with people to get it. But if it's a part of your business to protect the consumer, it becomes second nature, and it's not an extra step, and it's not a hassle.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some of those tools because there's so many tools on the market. But as you know, Tracey, and I know you've had a chance to look over what we offer our members, AJR does offer some safety resources for our members already.
You guys are amazing, if I may say so. I get to work with associations across the country, and I have to say you're the first association where you created an app to help your agents. And if your agents don't realize it, they need to pay attention right now. And to key in your technology department, I heard about this, the verified user tool. I heard about it, I want to say last year or 2 years ago when I first started working with you all. And it's like, are you serious? You took the time to devote an entire department to do this? I was impressed. So what I did is I took a look at it, and what it does, it's a verified user tool. So before you meet someone, whether it is going to a listing appointment, you need to make sure the person sitting in that house is not a squatter or someone who jacked the listing, Craigslist, or however they might have done it. You need to verify who you're meeting in that house. You need to verify who is your potential client, and then this tool allows you to do that. So it's going to verify the phone number. It's going to verify the identity of who you're meeting. So you're not just blindly meeting anyone and someone. And what I like is that it has an interaction where the receiving party, they have to take an action. So here's what you're saying. Part of our safety procedure is that we have to verify who we're working with. And that also allows you to know that I am who I say I am, and that I am a legitimate agent and I am safety trained. So you're going to get a link that's going to ask you to verify some information. So would you please take 5 seconds and do that? And then we're ready to get working. And so what that tells the person on the other end is like, oh, they're just not working with anyone. They're professional. So it lets them know that safety is important to you. If they hesitate or question it, then that is an opportunity for you to question whether or not you want to work with them. But every interaction needs to have a safety focus. You guys also work with Safe Showings. That's another app, and it's another level. And I talk about layers and levels of safety. So we've already talked about safe practices, and we talk about any self-defense classes. We talked about weapons, what your weapon of choice is, practicing it and using it. Now we're talking technology. So here's just another level. Safe Showings requires that you take a picture of who you're working with. So again, you're alerting the person, hey, safety is important to us. This is a part of our practice. Let me get a real quick picture. And then that way they know their image is somewhere recorded. If they have bad intentions, they're going to think twice. If they're legitimate, they don't have a problem, because if you think about it, everywhere we go, our image is being recorded. So we're not protecting our privacy. This is someone we want to work with. So those are 2 tools that HAR makes available to you as agents, and you need to utilize every single tool. And again, after a while, it becomes second nature and it's ingrained in the way you do business, and you're letting consumers know safety is important to me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. If you think about if you're touring an apartment complex, they take your driver's license and leave it in the office. If you are going to test drive a vehicle, they take your driver's license and keep it there so that if you were to disappear with that car or that salesperson, people will know who it was. So it's just a part of building it into the business. Now, I do want to ask this because we do hear this sometimes is what if they object? What if they say, I'm not sharing my information with you? What would you do then? Or what would your response be, Tracey?
This is why every conversation talks about safety. You know, I'm safety trained. My safety is important. I had a real estate agent who was going to show a couple, and she was going to show them properties after work. She was in her office and she started thinking, wait a minute, I don't know these people. What am I doing? So she called them. She said, look, before we go look at properties, can you come to my office? Let me get some information and let's talk first. He said, what are you talking about? She said, just one little extra step. Come to my office. I'll get some information from you. We'll talk about properties. He said, that's crazy. I have to drive by the house to come to your office. It doesn't make sense. At that point, she said, look, I don't know you from Adam. If I were your wife, your daughter, your sister, your mother, meeting a complete stranger, wouldn't you want them to do whatever it took to be safe? And his next question was, what time do we need to be at your office? So if you just have to break it down and say, look, this is for my safety. I don't know you. You don't know me. And I really appreciate it if you will accommodate my request so that this is safe for everyone involved. Who can turn that down? Who can say no when they think about the gravity of it? So sometimes you have to just say it. You worry about losing a client. What kind of client doesn't respect your concern about working with a complete stranger? They don't know you either. So I say it's the way you position it, the way you phrase it. And if they're legitimate, no one in their right mind is going to question why you need to be safe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So you've mentioned a few tools already. So what, as far as personal safety is concerned, what should realtors carry to protect themselves?
When the National Association of Realtors does their annual member safety report, they ask real estate agents, what tools are you using to stay safe? Number one, always, pepper spray. Pepper spray, and again, this is where you need to know the difference between mace, pepper spray, and tear gas. The preferred formula is what police officers use. It's what postal carriers use. It's pure pepper. So pull out your canister, look at the label, and if it says OC, you're good. That's pepper spray. You need to know that tear gas is antiquated formula. If your label says CN or CS, you need to toss it because it's a pain inducer. If someone's under the influence, they may or may not feel it. So it's better to just avoid it because law enforcement officials do. And then know that Mace is a brand name. It's a company name, and they happen to sell pepper spray. They sell tear gas, and for a while there, they own car washes. So just know what you are carrying. You need to know how to use it, test it on a regular basis. And this is something I do cover in the classes that I teach. So I'll be teaching the classes at the end of the month. That's where I talk about your options. Number two is firearms. The National Association of Realtors doesn't have a national rule about whether or not to use firearms. They direct you to your local association on the local level. So you'll ask your association if you're allowed to carry a firearm when working. And then most importantly, ask your real estate company if you can. And if those are your choices, accessible, know how to use it, be willing to use it, and practice. You can't just take one class and call it done. Practice on a regular basis.
Okay. So moving into a little bit of a different topic here, Tracey. Houston is no stranger to flooding and hurricanes. What do you recommend realtors do to prepare themselves and their clients for natural disasters?
I have a friend, CKM Solutions, Connie Myers, who is the leader in the space, and she's worked with FEMA, and Connie offers training on disaster preparedness. And Connie takes a focus that I really like, and we talk about it, we've worked together, is how do real estate agents add value to the consumer relationship. So Connie is teaching agents how to deal with natural disasters and how to share that with the consumer. What I'm saying is to make yourself knowledgeable. There should be a checklist that you share with your with your consumers, the sellers and buyers, especially the sellers. Here's what to do in case of a natural disaster. You need to have the conversations with them. A part of your relationship with them is always talking about safety, whether it's their possessions and them. Talk about, what do you do if there's a flood here? Let's talk about a go bag. Hey, here's a list of what needs to be in your go bag. And your go bag is your emergency bag. What do you grab when you have a warning of floods coming? You have 15 minutes to get out. What needs to be in there? Prescription medication, your pet dog food. You need to have non-perishable food. You need to have water. What needs to be in that bag? And when you get the warning that it's coming is not the time to think about it. So that's a handout that you can share with your consumer. Again, stay top of mind, share information. So talking about the weather is good for business, especially if you're warning them and you're telling them things. And for real estate brokerages, let's talk about evacuating the office. And what do you need to have in place if there is a flood? How do we protect the documents and everything inside? Do we have an orderly evacuation route? And so that's something I cover in my broker class. So I'm glad you asked that question, because every time we turn on the news, there's something going on about the weather. And if I may say, I wrote a 2-part article for RIS Media about natural disaster preparedness for the real estate industry. I'd love you all to take a look at that, because it talks about some of the steps you need to take. And I do interview Connie. So that's a great tool for offices as well as agents to put in their toolbox, how to deal with the weather, because it's happening more and more often.
Okay, I'm sure we can look up that RIS Media article and share that link in the comments for everyone as well. Well, we've mentioned it a few times, Tracey. Where can realtors learn more from you?
You can find me, I can see Tracey, the safety lady, and then I give you a link where people can get that FSBO safety tip sheet to staple their business card to, where they can get all the articles, the information that I discussed. You can get it from that link. And I don't know if we have time, Christina, to talk about the Google Maps and Nextdoor really quickly to wind up.
Absolutely.
Okay, and people always want to know what's new and different in the real estate world. Google Maps is already on your phone. You all need to use Google Maps, not only to get to where you need to go, but to share your location. So there is a tool when you put in where you're going, you have a choice to share your location, and then you can see your contact list. There's my sister, Stacey. You can share your location with whoever you choose to share it with, and the time frame. And of course, it's free. So you can say, I want my contact list to know where I am within a certain number of hours. So if it's hours that you're showing, that's perfect. Or I had an agency, I leave it on 24/7, 365 days of the year, so that my husband and son has access to it. And then I had another agent, he said, I don't want my wife knowing where I am. She could think I'm working, I could be on the golf course. So you can limit the hours that they can see your location. And the next big thing is Nextdoor. Everyone's telling real estate agents to get on social media. Social media is fine, but Nextdoor is where it's at. Nextdoor is made up of 269,000 neighborhoods, not people, whole entire neighborhoods. And there are groups on Nextdoor. You can get involved in groups. And what I say is show up in your profile picture. You can put your real estate company logo on there, but don't show up saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Let me sell your house. I can help you buy a house. But show up. If you see some of the comments that are happening on Nextdoor, people are talking about, I'm going to be selling my house. Who knows where a house is? You can jump in on those. But there are certain groups. Find a group that you identify with. There are groups for people of certain ages, people who have certain likes. There are groups with good and bad contractors. So you find a community and you get in that group. You make comments on different posts. Just get your name out there. Don't talk about selling. Get your name out there. And then this is where you get to farm. You have to verify that you live in a certain neighborhood. They're going to send you something. They make sure you do. I have neighborhoods around me within a certain radius. I want to know what's going on. So when there are car thefts, catalytic converter thefts, when there are burglaries, when people want gardening tips, I can see who around me. I can comment, hey, that's a great idea, or wow, good for you. As an agent, you can say, hey, as an agent, I work with a lot of contractors. Here's a good repairman. Or you can say, as an agent, here's how I can help you, but don't sell. And finally, on there, what was I going to say? Groups. Set up a group with the market report. And you hear people say, go on live, do a video, do market reports. Do it on Nextdoor. Do it in neighborhoods, because in my neighborhood, the houses are doubling in value. I don't plan to sell, but my sister's an agent. First thing I do is call an agent. Hey, Stacy, how much is the house next door? So be that agent. Set up a group, a market report for the Houston market, or however you want to name it. I know everybody here is going to run and do it, but set up a free group there and share market report information, share house information, be a resource. I'm telling you, next door is where it said I'm going to cover that in my classes too. And then I'm setting up a whole separate training for that, because that's the future of social media. And that's where real estate agents need to be, in neighborhoods.
Okay. So tell us about your upcoming safety boot camp.
I'm doing two classes, two CE classes. We're doing it 2 different days. Oh, darn. Do you know the days? The 20. This is my busy month and I'm everywhere. So I know there are a couple of days. And so sign up for them. And you're going to not only get information on how to lead with safety, I'm telling you how to build it into your business, how every contact with the consumer is safety oriented, which is going to make them appreciate you because you're different than the other 47,000 members of HAR. You're the one who's always talking about when their house is on the market. You're not coming in talking about profits. You're talking about, here's how we can keep your house safe, medicine out of medicine cabinets, jewelry out of jewelry boxes, put this away. Here's the lighting and the landscaping information. And then we're going to talk technology. That's part 2. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about what technology is out there to keep you safe. And by the way, that's what I'm talking about at the NAR conference in Orlando this year. I'm doing 2 classes. One of them is about technology. We're going to touch upon VR, AR, what's the future of technology, and what technology is out there to keep not only you safe, but to help you protect the consumer. So 2 classes, earn my designation, and learn how to lead with safety, how to stand out from other agents by baking and building safety into your work practices so that they love you, they come back to you, and you stay top of mind. And I'm going to tell you how to do that on a regular basis, so that the 91%, the NAR surveyed agents and said, will you follow up with your client? 91% if you don't. I'm going to tell you how to avoid that, how to stay top of mind on a regular basis with safety content and information that I am creating for you to share.
Wonderful. They helped us out in the chat. The safety courses here at HAR, they're going to be taught virtually. It's Monday, September 26th from 9 to noon, and Tuesday, September 27th from 9 to noon. And we did share the link so you can go sign up for that class with Tracey. Well, Tracey, this has been wonderful. You've shared so much great information in just a short amount of time. Is there anything else that you want to share with our audience today?
Always lead with safety, and the link, my link has all of the resources. Stay top of mind, and most importantly, know that you can be safe. It's not a hassle. Build it into your business. I'm going to teach you how to do it. I don't want to read one more headline that could have been prevented. So I'll see you in class, and keep in mind it's virtual, so there's no limit. Let's fill up those classes, earn that designation, and let's get out there and keep everyone safe, including you.
Wonderful. We got a comment from HR.com that says Tracey lives up to her middle name as the safety lady. And I definitely agree with that. Just a reminder before we end today's program, this week's Member Focus Monday and the HR On the Move podcast are sponsored by Reliant Energy. Realtors can partner with them for exclusive rewards and work alongside them with their Reliant Mover Concierge to help make your clients' move easier. You can check out more information on their website. And also, I'd like to go ahead and announce that we're going to keep on this safety topic through next week. Next week, we are going to have Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez on our program. It's going to be his first appearance on our program, so we're really looking forward to that. Tracey, again, thank you so much for everything you shared today. Our members are thanking you in the chat. So much great information. They loved it. So we truly appreciate it.
And if Bob Hell is watching, I got to meet him last week in DC. Wonderful man. I was at the RAS Media event getting an award for being a crusader, and I got to meet him. Nice guy. And your leadership, safety starts at the top. So between Rita, you, Christina, and Bob, you all are wonderful, and you look out for your people. So good job. And I'll see you all at the end of the month.
Thank you. Well, that is it for this Member Focus Monday. We'll see you next week at 9 a.m. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.